Okay, the first one says, which of these strategies would eliminate a variable in the system of equations? So here is a system or a pair of equations. You can add or subtract the equations. If we were to add them, 6x plus 6x would be 12x. 5y plus negative 5y would cancel, and then we'd be left with equals 8. So what you're looking for is for one of the variables to cancel out, so that way you can just solve for the other variable. So one of the strategies that could be used would be to add the equations. It does say choose all answers that apply. So let's look at what happens if we subtract the bottom equation from the top. Okay, so subtracting this entire thing from the top, 6x minus 6x, it would cancel. And then 5y minus a negative 5y would be 5 plus 5y to get 10y. And then 1 minus 7 would be negative 6, and you could solve for y that way. So another way is to subtract the bottom equation from the top. Then the third option, it says multiply the top equation by 7, then subtract the bottom equation. If we were to multiply this by 7, we'd get 42x plus 35y equals 7. And then when we subtracted, we wouldn't get anything to cancel out. So this would not be an answer here. Okay, and then over here we're actually solving systems of equations. Again, you can add or subtract, do whatever would allow you to get one of the variables to cancel out. In this case, adding negative 9x plus positive 9x would cancel. 9y equals negative 27. And then you can solve it for y. Divide both sides by 9. Y equals negative 3. Here we have another space for x. To find x, you can take the y and plug it into the equation and then solve for x. So negative 9x plus 4 times negative 3 equals 6. And I get x equals negative 2. On the PSAT, it wasn't in this format though. They had answer choices that were like negative 2, negative 3 as coordinates, the x and the y, and that's what you would look for in the answer choices. Also with the PSAT, once you had one number, so y equals negative 3, they showed you that you could choose the answer based on that if you only have one answer choice with negative 3 in the y coordinate. Then also, if this process is confusing or you just wanted to check your work, if you take these numbers and plug it back into the equation and they work, then it's the answer. So if this is the answer, you'll be able to plug it into both of them and it will work. For example, if we plug this in, we would get 18 plus negative 12, and that does equal 6. 6 equals 6, so it worked. And then if you plugged it into the second one and it worked, that would be your answer. Okay, next one, again, solving systems of equations. You need to put that away. In this case, we want the 8y's to cancel out, so we're going to add them together. 3x plus 2x is 5x. 8y plus negative 8y would be 0. And then 15 plus 10 would be 25. So 5x equals 25. Solve for x. Yeah, x equals 5. So our answer is going to be 5 comma something. And again, if you look through the answer choices and there was only one with an x coordinate of 5, that would be your answer. Then to find y, we're going to plug in the x and then solve for y. Then this comes out kind of weird. It says 8y equals 0. Divide by 8, and you get y equals 0. So your y coordinate is just 0. And that's all on here for systems of equations. Now we're going to review percents. And percents seem to come up a lot on the PSAT, and we'll also be using it on the project on Thursday and Friday. So it's good that we're going over it. Okay, so Challenger Elementary School has 800 students. Every Wednesday, 12% of the students stay after school for chess club. So what we can do is just multiply the total population by 0.12. And we'll get 96 students. And you would just plug that in the calculator. Yes. That would work because of the decimal, like.
And then for one on the side, I just did 9 times 2.
0.9 times 2. You'd have to be 0.9 times 2. Are you moving the decimal places over? Is that how you're doing it?
No, because it's 90 and 20.
23 out of 50 of Xander's friends prefer to stay home on Friday nights. What percent of Xander's friends prefer to stay home? So one way to do it is take 23 and divide it by 50 if this is on the calculator portion. If you divide that, you'll get 0.46, which then to make it a percent, you'd move the decimal over 2 places or multiply by 100 to get 46%. That's the answer. If this was on the non-calculator portion and you couldn't use a calculator to divide this, you could set it up like this and then multiply each of these numbers by 2 to get a number over 100. Once you have the number over 100, that is your percent, 46%. Then we're going to save this longer one for the last problem we do. Here it is, what is 90% of 20? Couple of things. Of, you can always think of as multiplication. 90% of 20, we're going to multiply. We do need to change this into a decimal, so it's going to be 0.90 times 20. And in the calculator, you would get 18. So you divided this by 10 and then multiplied by 9. I don't know.
Get like the first number, the 9's multiplied, and then always work.
Okay. Okay, and then this one here, I noticed that there was a few questions on the PSAT where you have to solve for a variable. I know this is a lot of explaining here, but here's the important parts. Here's the equation, and they say to rearrange the formula to solve for mass m. So we're going to take this formula and then solve for m. So the first step I'm going to do is multiply this whole thing by 2 to get rid of the 1/2. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So now I have 2k equals mv squared. Going to continue working on getting m by itself. The next step is I'm going to divide both sides by v squared, velocity squared. Then we get m equals 2k over v squared. And that's our answer. Now, if this is multiple choice, this would be a correct answer. Another way this can be written is like this, to the -2 second power. Do you remember that? So if you have an exponent in the denominator, you could write it with a negative exponent up there. But the answer I'm going to put in here is 2k over v squared. The second part of the question says, what is the mass of an object with kinetic energy of 200,000 joules and a velocity of 40 meters per second? I already have the equation set up to equal mass, so at this point I can just put in the numbers. 2 times 200,000 over velocity is 40 squared. 2 times 200,000 would be 400,000 over 40 squared. 40 times 40 is 1,600. And 4,000 divided by 16 is 250. Yes.